Nicole claims she was betrayed by two men she trusted to protect her. One tried to rape her, the other tried to kill her. But she says no one believes her because those men are police officers. Nicole says the system is also stacked against her because she used to be a stripper who's married to an ex-convict. Attorney Bill Anderson agrees that Nicole was brutally attacked, but he says she was the victim of her own husband, that Nicole is trying to cash in on what's actually a case of domestic violence. We'll hear from Bill Anderson in a few minutes. But first, Nicole, tell us what happened on January 1st, 1992. What happened to you?
I was with my husband. My husband and I were at another couple's house. I got into an argument with the host, the owner of the house, and left and went 2 doors down and was with Hank Etherton there. And he asked me after a time if I wanted the police called to help me. And I said yes.
Why did you need help?
I was intoxicated. I did not want to be where I had been. I wanted help. Couldn't walk. It was cold. I didn't have my jacket. And you call the police when you need help.
All right.
When you're in a situation like that. They came and picked me up. They asked me where I wanted to go. What do I want to do? They didn't exactly know. I said, well, I don't want to go back. They asked me, do you want to go back? No, I didn't want to go back. We parked right across the street from where my husband was. And I could see his silhouette in the doorway. And I passed out in the back of the squad car. I was sitting in the back behind the passenger seat of the squad car.
With 2 police officers in a squad car, you're in back and you pass out. And then the
next thing, when I woke up, Officer Bailey was sitting right to the left of me. Officer Gilead was leaning in on the door. He was leaning on the door looking in. I don't remember what he was saying, but I remember being really confused. And I started crying, and Officer Bailey was this close to me. He was saying, it's okay, and he was touching my legs, and he was touching my breast. And I was confused. I didn't know what was happening until he started pushing me down in the seat. He was trying to rape me. He was trying to rape me. He ripped my shirt when I was getting away.
Well, how did you get away if somebody was holding it?
I fought. When someone attacks you physically, and I don't care how intoxicated you are, if you don't want them to, and I elbowed him right in his face and got out, and he chased me.
So you got out of the car, and the officer's in pursuit of you, and what happens next?
I'm go around the squad car through the gully. He's chasing me. I knew he was chasing me. He was right on me. I was terrified. I was thinking, oh my God. He tackled me, and then it was like, wham! And I woke up. When I came to, I was alone. My leg was broke, and I was on my elbows, and I was crying for my husband.
Part of your charge against these police officers is that they tried to run you over with the squad car.
They did run me over. They ran me over, and there's a dent right in their squad car that they sold 3 months after the accident. They sold it to the law enforcement officer on the village board. He bought it for $500, $503.
Do you remember them running you over? You said you passed out. Do you remember actually them physically running over you?
No. But there's damage to the car. No, I don't remember the actual impact. I remember the wham, but not seeing the squad car.
Because the nurse, you were taken to the hospital, the nurse said that when you got to the hospital, you were still intoxicated, and the nurse said that you had said you fell off a garage, or that you fell.
That was a couple days after the initial impact, and I was in the emergency room and all that. I was under a lot of morphine, and I had the tremendous sensation of falling, and I told her that was where they pulled that out of a hat.
But you did say it. Do you remember saying it to the nurse?
Yes, I remember. I had this tremendous sensation of falling.
All right. Now, how did you find your wife, or how did you find out what happened?
Jane, we were at this get-together with another couple, and another couple showed up after the clock went down. It was midnight, and we were getting ready to go home. It was winding down. Nicole had this disagreement with the host. She left. She was gone for a while. We sat and had another drink. I played another song or two, And we were just sitting there, and the police showed up. Officers Bailey and Gilead show up at the door, try to start a fight with me, lure me outside. Officer Bailey said, "You were a effing punk in the joint, and you're going back, and you're going to be a punk in the joint when you go back." And I was right in his face.
He was referring to, for folks who don't know, he was referring to the fact you have served time.
Yes, that I had been in prison.
For what?
Cocaine possession.
All right. How did you find your wife?
Well, when they got ready to leave, the people at the party would not let me leave. They knew they were trying to lure me out there so they could arrest me or beat me up or something. These guys are famous for this. They, right when they got ready to leave, they never made any mention of my wife until right when they were ready to leave, and they stopped, and I remember distinctly Bailey standing there going, "Oh yeah, your wife was with us, but she took off."
I had been right across the street.
I went back in the house. We stood there and talked for a few minutes and thought, well, where's Nicole? She's been gone for an hour. Where's she at? She's been with the police, but she's not here now, and her coat's right here. So I got my coat on. We got ready to leave. My brother was going to give me a ride home. I stepped out the door, and I heard her screaming. And I went in the direction of the screams, and it sounded like a wounded animal. I mean, it was awful. And I found her.
And he tried to pick me up.
I tried to pick her up. I didn't realize she was so badly hurt. I knew she was badly hurt because her leg was turned completely around the wrong way. And she was trying to crawl, you know, trying to get herself up.
And I was saying screaming. It was Bailey.
She was screaming over and over and over and over and over. It was Bailey. He tried to rape me. And I was going, "Baby, what happened? What happened?" And she said, "It was Bailey. He tried to rape me." And my brother came. He'd come out the door with me, only he went in the other direction. Well, when he heard me screaming, "Trixer, I found her. Get over here. She's hurt." He came over, and he said, "She's hurt really bad." He was a medic in Vietnam, so he would know she was hurt bad. And he went to get an ambulance.
Okay. Again, there's a difference of opinion. We're going to have some folks from the town joining us in a few minutes. But I mean, in reading the accounts in the newspaper about this, there are people who said that you were in fact not saying Bailey did it, but that your husband had done this to you.
That was the ambulance crew that they've known the Creve Coeur police for hours. It took them 55 minutes to get me to the hospital, a 7-minute drive. They stopped twice.
They made 2 stops on the way to the hospital. 2 stops, which is unheard of. I've talked to EMTs with 8 years, 10 years experience.
I was saying Bailey did it.
But why? So you're saying these eyewitnesses who heard you saying basically that your husband had inflicted this injury on you are lying?
They're lying. There were other eyewitnesses on the scene who were not included in the state police investigation who swore they heard Nicole stating on the scene it was Bailey. He tried to rape me.
All right. Now, how badly were you injured?
My foot was broken in 6 places. My femur bone was broken. 3 inches of it exploded where I was hit. They had to take part of my hip out to replace the bone there. I had contusions on the left. All my injuries were on the left side, and they tried to say it was battery.
Yes, they did try to say it was battery at the hospital. They tried to confuse the issue. When I got to the hospital, they wouldn't let me ride with her in the ambulance because she was laying in the ambulance saying it was Bailey. He tried to rape me. Well, they knew because Bailey pulled up. He took Gilead home. He showed up on the scene. There were two Creve Coeur officers there, and I went straight to the police car and was beating on the car and
what you're saying is still in contention. Again, we're going to hear the other side. But continuing on with this, it took you some time to recover from your injuries?
I got out of the hospital 18 days.
That long?
5 of them in intensive care. My lung collapsed. I was coughing up bone marrow. And they were still trying to say it was a battery after the orthopedic surgeon and other professionals there at the hospital said this one was hit by a car.
They all agreed.
Well, I was going to say, I did read a report from the state's attorney in Illinois that said that your injuries were consistent with either a car accident or with falling off of a garage, theoretically. Let me ask you why it took you a year. You filed a federal lawsuit, is it? Why did it take you a year to do that?
I'll answer that. We sought legal counsel within 2 months after the accident. It took her quite a while to recover. She was home. I was taking care of her a lot. It was really hard. We sought legal counsel. These 2 separate law firms told us, don't talk to anybody, don't say anything to anybody, we'll take care of it.
We wanted it to be investigated.
We definitely wanted it investigated. As the months rolled by and nothing was happening, finally in December of '92, with just a few weeks left before the statutory criminal deadline expired, we were told that these firms would not take our case because it was too messy, it was too sticky. and it was against the cops.
Okay, but could I ask you something? You filed for a lot of money. How much money have you filed for?
Originally, when I wrote the federal lawsuit, because we couldn't get anybody to write it for us, I filed a $10 million federal civil rights action, naming each defendant, 7 defendants, severally and individually, for $10 million apiece.
So you're talking initially it was a $70 million deal, and you couldn't get a lawyer to take that case?
The lawyers would not take it because it was too sticky, it was too ugly.
Okay, what do you think has happened here? Why do you think nobody is hearing your story? Why do you think justice has not been served from your point of view?
Ask Rodney King that.
They have connections. They know the people in District 8, the state police that came and investigated it. Jerry Dodders, the chief of police in our town, headed the investigation.
He ran the investigation that investigated these allegations.
But why are you not aside from the connections and the fact you may not have as much influence, why do you think you're not being taken seriously, Nicole?
Because of them, because of their connections.
She's
I
a
will
former
be taken
stripper.
seriously.
I'm an ex-convict. I've got long hair and tattoos. I'm a musician. I don't make $150,000 a year. I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. My dad doesn't own this business or that business.
Okay.
That's why we're not being taken seriously.
All right, we're going to take a break right now. Next, a man who says Nicole and Curtis's story could be called the big lie. He was the village attorney when all this happened. He agrees Nicole was assaulted, but he says the police officers didn't do it. That Nicole's husband probably molested his own wife. We'll be back. The police officers in the small town of Creve Coeur, Illinois, tried to rape her, then run her over with a squad car. But attorney Bill Anderson says Nicole and her husband Curtis made the whole story up, that they're trying to cash in on what was really a case of domestic violence. Why do you feel that way, Bill?
Well, first you have to understand that there wasn't just one investigation of this. There was investigation by the Creve Coeur Police Department, the state police, the state's attorney's office, my office as village attorney, to determine if the officers needed to be charged with misconduct. All investigations have shown one thing clearly, and that's that Nicole is a liar.
There were
and
no
her
sworn statements from the witnesses
Curtis,
on the
Ask
scene.
this guy why he doesn't have his job
her
anymore.
husband
First
Curtis.
of all. Ask him why he's no longer employed by the village.
But Bill Anderson isn't on trial right now. We're talking about this case, and I want to get a feel. I mean, you say she's a liar. Why do you say that's a terrible thing to call somebody?
She has told
man who
6
told Officer
different
Gilliott to lie
stories.
under oath.
6 different stories.
No, she's never
of how
told
the events
one different
happened.
story from another.
Could we
Never.
get an example of an
Yes.
inconsistency from your point of
Yes,
view?
she told 3 paramedics, 2 nurses, a
Not
women's
true.
strength representative at the
I
hospital,
told a women's
and the
lady
fire
the police
chief
hurt me.
that her husband and her brother-in-law beat her and raped her.
That is what the police told the ambulance
And
personnel to tell.
then she proceeded to tell the people in the hospital, nurses and emergency room doctors, that she was, after she talked to Curtis, she changed her story to being hit by a car.
No way.
She also
Not
told
even
one
close,
nurse
Mr.
that
Anderson.
she
You're lying.
fell off a garage roof. She told an emergency
lying.
room doctor and 2 nurses that she didn't know how it had happened to her. And she told a fellow worker at the grocery store where she used to work that her husband broke her leg with the truck and backed
He
up
knows that's
and
a lie because the state
and
police
hit her
proved it.
again.
The state police
and
went
hit her
back
again.
and saw this woman and told that
Now,
woman told the state
after
police
telling
that
all
Nicole
these
never
stories
told
Hold
and
on
all
a second.
these lies,
Give him a chance.
now she wants to accuse the police
So
officers.
why'd they fail their
And she
polygraph?
wonders why nobody will believe her story.
Now she's raising the point in reading about this. You volunteered to take a polygraph test.
Which she's not supposed to have to do according to Illinois state law.
Okay, she volunteered to take it, and in
Right.
fact she passed it, whereas the 2 officers involved did not pass it.
They
Three
flunked every
questions.
question. They flunked every question.
I could,
Did you send
And then they
speak
got
to that?
another statement.
Could you let him explain what he thinks happened here?
Yes,
Yeah.
I could tell you what happened there. Curtis showed up on marijuana and Valium to take the test. I don't know what she took before
That's
her
a lie.
test.
That
I
is a
haven't
lie.
seen the tracings, but you have one examiner who tested her first.
We're talking about
and
theirs.
decided that she was telling the truth. Now, once he decides that she's telling the truth, you tell me,
that's
can
his
he give
cure-all.
an unbiased opinion of the two officers also telling the truth? In fact, wouldn't his results be contradictory if he said everybody was telling
Nicole,
the truth?
Regardless, you know, that the results of that test are admissible.
The thing you have to understand about polygraph tests is that they test how nervous you get in response to a question. If you ask somebody if they raped someone, they're probably going to show a tremendous emotional response, whether they're telling the truth or not.
Perhaps Mr.
Just the mere
Anderson can
accusation
explain why my brother passed his polygraph, why mine was inconclusive and Nicole's was completely truthful.
Again, that's not admissible in court, as you've already pointed out.
How many people have been convicted and sent to prison because they flunked a polygraph? How many?
I don't know the answer to that question. Is that true? I thought they were inadmissible in court.
Admissible, so I'm not aware of any of them.
The state's attorney will use that as his decision maker to decide whether to prosecute a case or not, and Mr. Anderson knows that.
Okay, let me ask you to address what Nicole and Curtis are saying about the fact that, you know, they're not seeing equal justice because of who they are. You know, they're average people, and she worked as a stripper. He has a record. Do you think there's any validity to that?
Well, I certainly think that if you're willing to commit theft, burglary, auto theft, intimidation.
Mr. Anderson, you lie every day
on and on.
Every day for a living, you lie.
You know,
every day for a living, this guy lies.
These things for money.
For the
if you're willing to pimp your wife out for sex
pimp
parties,
my wife out. My wife is a professional.
For money.
My wife is a professional performer.
The thing you have to understand
Curtis, you're going to have to let him be heard. Otherwise, nobody's going to be heard on this show.
Curtis has a long record extending from 1976.
Hold on one second, Bill. You've been given a chance to talk. We can't hear what he's saying. This is pointless unless he gets heard, okay?
This man is paid to lie.
You've said that 4 times already, and I think that we need to let him speak so we can hear what he's saying and make up our own mind.
That's right. I've made mistakes, but I paid my time.
All right, but let him finish here. You've just made a serious allegation that he pimps his wife out. What is that about?
Well, I mean, what do you call it when a man lets his wife go out and work private strip parties?
Well, it doesn't
I never worked private strip parties. Wait a minute. I was a professional topless dancer.
She's never worked a private party ever, as long as we've been together.
Hands off.
I'm not sure that's your definition of pimping. The point is a lot of people go out and strip at private functions and they're not considered, you know, being...
Talk about pimping. He would know about pimping.
All right. Now... Okay.
Let's get one thing straight. I took an oath of office, and that oath of office was to represent a village and to protect and to service. Curtis has never done anything his whole life but make a buck the easiest, cheapest, most criminal way he could.
That's his opinion.
And that is my opinion.
He's not held in very high opinion in our town.
On the other hand,
but it was
also
he just built a brand new $350,000 office out of the money he made from our village, charging exorbitant fees.
He's making an honest living, Curtis.
Just to read the ISP-DCI file.
All right.
Just to read this
his
file,
salary is also...
That's why he lost his job.
Okay. Again, that's not in contention on this broadcast. Can we stay on track? Let me ask you.
For the record, I charge about 1/3 of my hourly rate when I do municipal work. You know, that's something I do as a duty and a service to the community. Something Curtis wouldn't know anything about.
All right.
This is the man who wouldn't know about a service to his community. He's been busy ripping this community off for a long time.
Curtis, his character's not in contention. I really would like to try and keep this to the case.
He is questioning my character.
Okay, but wait a second. The point is that you've made serious allegations against police officers. He's saying there were a number of investigations that have shown, and I read the results, that have shown there was no cause for criminal kinds of convictions in this case.
There are, though. That's the thing. Just because they failed their polygraph is not enough to prosecute them. But there are so many inconsistencies in their statements. You got to keep this in mind, Gene. They lied, and then they took polygraphs, and they were caught lying, so they lied again. They've given 3 different statements as to what happened that night, the officers in question.
Okay, let me ask you why you think, and then we'll go into a break, why you think this was a result of domestic violence. Why are you so sure of that?
Several points. First of all, the paramedics on the scene said that Curtis was screaming at his wife to shut her effing mouth over and over again as they were loading her in the ambulance, telling her to not say a goddamn word to anybody about anything, over and over in her face, screaming at her, and he had to be hauled out of the ambulance. Now, Curtis had claw marks on his face, claw marks on his face, and she had 6 long, stringy black hairs in her mouth.
Yeah,
now, does that sound like...
They never saved that
why
evidence?
is Curtis the one with the claw marks on his face
of beating
and not
raping
the
my
officer?
Wife, but they never saved any evidence against me? They never arrested me or questioned me?
It was Bailey.
All right, going to jump in with the break. We're going to continue this. And next, a man who says Bill Anderson is part of the giant cover-up that's impeding justice in Nicole's case. Curtis's brother Larry joins us when we return. We'll be back.
On Friday's Jane Whitney. He's not her husband, he's her best friend.
And it's purely sexless.
But can men and women be best friends without being lovers?
Did you ever have a temptation to have sex with this man?
What does her husband think? Plus, after 5 years, these phone friends come face to face for the first time.
And you haven't had fantasies about this man?
Can passion stay platonic? On Jane Whitney, Friday.
Brutally attacked and left for dead by 2 police officers. Attorney Bill Anderson says Nicole and her husband Curtis made the whole story up to make money. Bill thinks Curtis actually attacked his own wife, and that Curtis's brother Larry was also involved, and Larry joins us now. What do you have to add to what you've been listening to backstage about this case that hasn't been said?
I think it's bull. It's all bull. He brought up right away, you know, what they did for a living. What difference does that make? I was there. Curtis called me in the morning, and he told me that Nicole had been in an accident, that she had been hit. And just from the sound of his voice, I knew it was serious. I got up to the hospital just as soon as I could, and I never saw him such a wreck before in my life, and we've been best friends all our lives. He was a wreck. He didn't know where to go, what to do, and he told me that Nicole was in bad shape. I walked in, and I looked at Nicole, and I had to walk right back out. She was pitiful.
Okay. Her injuries are, you know, nobody's disputing that she was injured very, very severely.
He told me the story.
Nobody could have done this to her, beating her up. 5 people couldn't have done it. The doctor told me when I finally got in to see my wife that I could have jumped off of a house on her and not done this to her. She was struck by an automobile.
And I did, from the very first time he told me the story, it has never changed. And he hadn't slept all night. He hadn't slept all night. He had been drinking, and he was a wreck. I mean, he couldn't think straight. He was wandering around. He didn't know where he was going. And he told me the story then, and he has never, ever changed the story. Never changed the story, not once.
Okay, but Bill Anderson's saying that Nicole changed her story from the time she was put in the ambulance to the time she was in the hospital.
That the police told the ambulance drivers to tell the hospital personnel. And if you read the hospital reports, Jane, they'll tell you.
Well, if he's saying it's all an act, who are they acting to? Who are they acting to? If he's saying this is all an act, who are they acting to in the middle of the night when I wake up? I stay with them, okay? I moved in with them. I've been helping them out through all this, and I've seen it all. Okay, so who are they acting to in the middle of the night when I wake up and Nicole's sitting there bawling her eyes out all by herself? Kurt's sitting up peeking out the windows because he's afraid the cops are going to come blow their house up or something, and they will do it too.
Were you living there when she went to Women's Strength 2 months after the incident and asked for help because Curtis was abusing her?
Kurt was not abusing her.
Kurt was not abusing her, and I'll tell you what, I had been staying with her.
Okay, but you've been staying with them, it's my understanding, since the incident.
Right.
We had a hard time.
Before the incident, are you saying that there's a history on the police record of calls for domestic violence in this case?
At the emergency room, she told an emergency room doctor that Curtis is abusive when he's drunk, and everybody was drunk at that party that night.
Oh, were they? How would you know? Were you there?
I read the report.
Oh, you read the report, so you know.
All right,
everything.
I'll tell you what, Jane, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I've been around him ever since he met Nicole, okay? Now, when they argue, it might get loud. You know, it might get louder than it does in some people's houses. But I've seen a whole lot more abuse come out of a whole lot more respectable houses. I've never seen Curtis hit Nicole. Ever. I've seen them yell and fight and scream.
Okay.
Especially a lot since this happened.
All right.
Since they're dealing with people like you.
This has ruined our lives. This has ruined our lives.
Okay, stand up.
If your wife and the hostess of the party had an argument, why didn't you leave when she left?
I did
to go
follow
home?
her out the door and tried to get her to come back, but she was really mad. You got to understand, she was drunk.
If I'm a married woman, and if I have an argument with someone that's giving a party, it's my husband's duty to leave with me to make sure, even if it's after 12 o'clock, to make sure that I get home safe. You say, excuse me, I'm sorry for the,
You don't understand Nicole when she's been drinking. When Nicole drinks,
thank you.
She gets a little loud and boisterous, and
people make mistakes. People do make mistakes when they drink.
This lady's
but
question.
the big mistake was made by the police.
Okay,
the reason that he did not follow her is because she was leaving him. She showed up on a neighbor's doorstep.
She was not
drunk,
leaving me. We did not fight that night. We did not even have an argument.
The officers took her back to the party.
No,
Okay,
they
when
did
she
not.
saw Curtis-
They did not
When
bring
she
her
saw
back.
Curtis,
Okay, wait a second.
she went running into the woods.
Curtis, just on the face of it, if your wife is drunk, she's, you know, clearly agitated, and she's leaving,
Yeah.
you follow her.
Yes, I did.
She
I
ran
followed her
in
out
the
to the
woods.
yard. I followed her out to the yard, and I saw her go to the house next door and
My
knock on the door.
sister-in-law.
And I said, Nicole, come on back. We were going home anyway. She said, no, I'm leaving. I'm mad. So I said, fine, go ahead. It's a quiet town. I didn't think we had anything to worry about.
My sister-in-law lives a half a block away from where
Okay.
I was.
So, why I'm sure that something did happen. I don't quite understand why did the officers in Indy come in the more or less challenge you in front of witnesses.
My
and then
feeling
leave
is that
and rape
those
your wife.
officers came back to the party to try to start a fight with me so that they could get me away from the party so that they could blame what they had done on my wife.
Things like
do
that
my
happen
wife
in court
on
all
me.
the time. Come on
it
over, you'll
happens
see.
all the time.
Seriously.
These guys are famous for this. This is
Who
not
says
an
they're
isolated-
famous for this?
That's bull.
That's pure bull.
This is not an
I know,
isolated
We're
you
case.
talking about
Personally, that
officers
village
with long
has paid
respected
out
careers.
Long
Many,
respected
many
careers.
hundreds of thousands of dollars
Okay,
in settlement
well, let me
claims
just say
for
this,
beatings
Bill,
and sexual
that
abuse.
again-
Curtis and Nicole will probably die of old age before their case gets to court because there's so many people standing in line to sue these guys.
Their case was worth a nickel. There would have been attorneys lining up.
I'm going to tell you what it does in
We're
this case.
talking
The
a
money
$1
does
million
not matter,
case and no
Gene.
attorney
It's
wants
not a
it.
matter of money. It's not a matter of money because they could give my wife $170 million and
right.
it wouldn't take
Come
away
here.
what it's done to
All
her.
right, I know they want to take a break. Hold on.
They took my wife away from me. They took my wife away and they brought back somebody else.
You live in a small
can never
town, don't
change it.
you?
Yes.
And everyone knows everyone else. Do these police officers know you and
I didn't know them.
know what you did?
Yes,
They
they
did.
do because they
You didn't
didn't
know them.
and know
How were
that
you
you-
able to say it was Bailey in some driveway?
Well, you know him by sight. You see him drive by
also
every
know
day.
that
She
you
said
were
she
in
didn't know.
prison and
Did they know you? I mean, were your lives
Yes,
known to
they
them?
knew us. They knew us. I mean, they know everybody in the
Okay,
town.
but Nicole just said you didn't know them.
She did.
She hadn't
know
lived
him
there that
personally.
long.
We don't know
I
them
don't have a
personally.
record.
They
I've
just
never
lived there
been
since he got out of prison.
Okay,
You gotta
thank you
understand,
very
Jane,
much.
she was not under arrest. She had done nothing wrong. This guy tried to take advantage of an over-intoxicated female who was passed out in the back of his squad car. He's a pervert. He's sick.
Okay,
He's
next-
done it before.
And
Okay.
this is the same man who's
He's
dedicated
the
8
DARE
or 10
officer.
years of his life in the grade schools in the DARE program.
Yeah, talk to some of those
teaching
kids.
Talk to some of
drug
those girls who
education.
come to our
Okay.
house
Yeah,
and tell
talk
the
to
stories
those
about
kids.
Johnny
You'll
Settle
Black.
down
find out.
here. All right, another break. Next, we finally found a longtime resident of Creve Coeur to appear on this broadcast and talk about why people are so afraid to speak out about this case. She'll tell us why her neighbors are scared to defend their own police force. When we return, we'll be back.
He's not her husband. He's her best friend.
And it's purely sexless.
Do you believe it? What does her husband think? On Jane Whitney, Friday.
If you would like to confront a one-night stand, please call 1-800-370-2712.
Nicole claims 2 police officers from the small town of Creve Coeur, Illinois, tried to rape her and run her over with a squad car. Nicole says no one believes her because she used to be a stripper. On the other hand, the townspeople have been conspicuously silent in their defense of their own police force. Louise McIntyre is a longtime Creve Coeur resident who's here to tell us why. Now, before I even talk to you, Louise, I have to tell you that our producers spent days trying to get the police chief, trying to get the police officers implicated in this thing, trying to get people from the town, trying to get anybody to talk about this. And we're delighted you're here because nobody else wanted to talk. Why is that, do you think?
They were gotten to. Creve Coeur means broken heart. And Jane, that's what's happened to Creve Coeur. It's breaking this episode is breaking the hearts of the town people. The town people are pitting against one another. Neighbors aren't talking to neighbors because they're choosing up sides. And it's just terrible.
So they're choosing up sides. Is it pretty, from your experience or what you've heard, I mean, is it pretty evenly divided?
It's basically pretty evenly divided. It's people are afraid to come out and say what they want to say.
I mean,
There's a reason
Louise,
for that.
do you really think many people believe Don Gilliat would ever run anybody down with a squad car?
I don't know. We never said he did it intentionally.
Let this lady answer a
We really
question, will
think
you?
that it was an accident, Louise. We really do think that
can
the
the lady
accident
answer a question?
I have friends.
Well, he was
All
breaking the law.
Hold on, Larry. Let Louise talk, please.
To answer the question, yes, I have known Don Gilliat for 20 years. In fact, the matter is, I've known Don Gilliat for 47 years. I've known all of these police officers since they were rookie cops. I've lived in the town longer than most of them are old.
And you know how much trouble they've been in, don't you, Louise?
I really believe that if Don hit Nicole, it was not on purpose. And I say if, because I don't know what happened that night. I know Nicole was hurt and hurt very badly. And I wish they would find out who did it, because this whole thing is wrecking this little village that sits on top of a bluff overlooking the Illinois River Valley and has more history than any place else in the area. And it's terrible.
It's a nice place if you're looking at it from an airplane. It's
All
true.
right, Jane, the bottom line here is I got to say this. My wife was a stripper. The officers knew it. I'm an ex-convict. They know it. They thought that they could rape my wife, and they thought they could run her over and leave her for dead, and then they thought they could blame it on me. And when the state police came in, the state police proved that it happened, but police are police. They're going to side with one another.
What you're saying the state police proved that it happened. I have no evidence or documentation at all to support that,
You haven't seen
Curtis.
the DCI file, have you? That's part of our evidence in our federal case.
Okay, all right. Let me just go back to the audience here. You had something in the
Why
back,
aren't they
Santa.
here to defend themselves? If they're so innocent, why aren't they here?
Because the reason they're not here to defend themselves is because this publicity has just about ruined the careers of two fine officers.
They've got a chance to
And every
rectify
time
it.
there's a show or a newspaper article, their name is associated with a rape.
It has been
and every time that happens,
not just Nicole.
their career goes down another notch.
Hold on a second. Stand
That's
by.
what's really irresponsible about this.
Ask Louise.
Is because
How many
what's
times
happened
they've been sued?
is
Ask
these
Louise.
people with their baseless allegations trying to make a quick buck out of the court system are ruining careers.
Curtis was going to drop the lawsuit
Jane,
if they
it's
pursued
Larry.
the criminal charges.
Larry, can I please let Louise has been trying to speak? Go ahead, Louise.
Well, Jane, this is typical of what I'm talking about. It is true that maybe there has been a lot of lawsuits this past few years. There has been repetitive lawsuits.
Lawsuits for what, Louise?
Against the police department.
For what?
And against the village.
Official misconduct, beatings,
everything.
Improper conduct with the public.
It has become a pattern anymore. If a police officer arrests you and you don't like the way that they handled you, you sue them. You sue the village. And who's paying for it? It's the people of the village that pays for it.
Okay, let me get back to this man who's been very patient. Yeah, go ahead.
When Curtis first told the story earlier, he was saying that he was at a friend's house, and then he said that my brother was going to give me a ride home, and that he called his brother over. Next thing you know, the brother comes out and says, Curtis called me in the morning, and I went down to the hospital.
No, this is a different brother. Different brother. My oldest brother was at the party.
The more you hear this, the more you'll find the stories just don't match up.
The story is true, and you'll all find it out.
Your stories don't match up. You got 3 different files, 3 different stories.
Okay, stand up. All right, let's
go. 3
I
different
know.
stories. And then on the police report, there's stuff added on after that police report, handwritten after the fact.
If you want to know different stories, look at the 6 different stories.
There are 6 different stories.
Okay,
Nicole told within 24
You've all been
hours.
very vocal. I want to find out what the audience thinks about what they've been hearing. I'm going to start with you, then take a break. Yeah.
Right. Nicole, you said earlier that you passed out in the squad car.
Yes.
How do you know that you were raped if you passed out?
I wasn't raped. When I came to, he was sitting directly to the left of me. And that is when he
Her
sexually
testimony is that
assaulted me.
.23 alcohol level, 2.3 times the legal limit.
You would remember.
And she was able to fight off a 180-pound police officer who was sober and get out of the car.
Another break. We'll be back. We'll be back. We'd like to hear from you. Send your letter in care of Jane Whitney, Columbus Circle, Post Office Box 20314, New York, New York, 10023. Back with the woman who said she was raped by a police officer and is not being taken seriously because she used to be a stripper. And what do you have to say?
I don't believe that any of them are telling the whole truth, and I don't know that it can ever come out because of all the bitterness. There appears to be some vendetta between the person named Bailey, the police officer Bailey, and this family.
Because he tried to rape me.
But you know him, you appear to know him too well from before the rape incident.
I don't
There's
think so.
something
Just from hearsay.
inconsistent.
Okay, but you're basically saying nobody up here from to your satisfaction is telling the
I
truth.
don't have anything to gain by,
Okay,
by
thank
lying
you.
for him.
What over here? Stand up. Yeah.
I want to go back to the lawyer questions. It seemed like if you were going to give, like, what is it, $10 million for each officer that was defended, and you're talking $70 million, I can't believe that no one would take the case.
The money is not important here. You got to understand
I misheard. This question wasn't for me.
I don't think it was for you.
Did you say you wanted to?
No, she asked me.
No, I was just asking in general why no one would take the case.
No one would take the case because you got to understand it's the same thing as the Rodney King case. Nobody wanted the case because it's a really hard case to prove, and cops are going to cover for cops.
But I don't think you can compare it to the Rodney King case.
Where the victim, the plaintiff, has lied at least 5 times.
You've got to understand. I don't care if it's 500.
Okay.
I told these people.
You've made the point, Curtis.
I told these people I would drop the civil case. I would drop the lawsuit if they would prosecute it criminally. And they will not do it because they don't want to prosecute cops. They don't want to make themselves look bad.
Why should we prosecute somebody who's innocent?
They're guilty. They're guilty. And I'll prove it.
I feel that the husband did beat up his wife because he's very bitter and he can't stand hearing any negative thoughts about him. I grew up with an abusive father, and that's the same mentality I see.
It was a physical impossibility.
It's already proven that it was physically impossible. What leads you to believe that he beat her up?
I could not have done it. It's a physical impossibility.
What was that that led you to believe?
Car did it. I was not driving that night. A car ran her over, passed over her foot, crushed her foot, crushed her foot.
They tried to kill his wife.
And it isn't over this incident.
How do you know it's not over
What
this
I'm
incident?
enraged about is the fact that these guys are still cops and are still raping women.
And attack
Wait a minute, Curtis. What do you mean these cops are still raping women?
There are women that come to our home and cry about what these men have done to them. Little girls in the DARE program.
Over junk in his yard.
Little girls in the DARE program have come to our house and told us about John Bailey chest butting them in their chest and pinching them on their butts and telling them he's going to lock them up in his cellar. It's true. It's true. I swear to God it's true.
Were you there?
Were you there? Man,
all right, simmer down, please, folks. You're not making it right. Go ahead.
I had a question.
Win, dude.
The lady said right here that it was by mistake. It wasn't by accident. It was by accident. I mean.
What was by accident?
The crash, the car that hit her. She said it wasn't on purpose.
I don't believe he hit me on purpose.
Now, I heard earlier that one of y'all two say that they meant to hit you.
No, he meant to rape her. There's no question.
Okay, let me just thank you. You've raised the point. I got to tell you, that's what I heard too. You made it sound very deliberate. You were trying to. Let me finish, Curtis.
Right.
You were trying to escape, and you're getting out of this car. And what you made it sound like, Nicole, was that they chased you down and deliberately ran over you.
He did chase me down. He pulled his car right into me.
But you're saying
and
now that it was. You said before that it was an accident. That he didn't mean to hurt you.
If you leave somebody almost dead.
That's no accident.
Ask Louise McIntyre.
He left her laying there
that Don
for dead,
Gilliard would leave anybody laying in the road.
30 minutes before I found her, she lay there in the road.
We'll ask Louise her opinion on all of this when we come back. We'll be back. We'll be back.
If you're going to be in the New York area and would like free tickets to our show, please call 1-800-771-2700.
On Friday's Jane Whitney. He's not her husband, he's her best friend.
And it's purely sexless.
But can men and women be best friends without being lovers?
Did you ever have a temptation to have sex with this man?
What does her husband think? Plus, after 5 years, these phone friends come face to face for the first time.
And you haven't had fantasies about this man?
Can passion stay platonic? On Jane Whitney, Friday.
Got the audience fired up over this one. You had something you wanted to ask.
Yes. Hi, Nicole. I'm wondering, why did you call the police? How did they get involved in the case? I don't understand.
Hank Etherton, the man and his wife, I was at their house, and they asked me if I wanted them to call the police for assistance, and I said yes.
What don't you understand about this?
I wouldn't call the police for something like that. To take you home.
She passed out on a neighbor's front door running from the party.
Excuse me, but don't you, on New Year's Eve, we are all told to call the police if we cannot drive or we cannot get home.
Absolutely.
All right, you feel better about it now?
She called the people that were supposed to help her. Gene, Gene, I want to say this right now, please. I am right now asking that the federal government come in and fully investigate this case. Completely.
Well, Curtis, you know, based on you making more allegations that these gentlemen are out sexually molesting children, I would assume the federal government may get involved.
The federal government knows it's going
You've
on.
made some very serious charges here.
That they're not going to come in. They don't want another Rodney King.
May I say something, please?
Go ahead, Larry.
If these people, these police, are so respectable, how come your staff tried for 2 days, went through the phone book, calling people to try to get them in here to stick up for their police department?
And you can only get people. Okay, Louise has said there are people who don't want. There are people who don't want the publicity. There are people who don't want to come on national television.
They don't want somebody to know you're a rapist.
The public officials
that are scared of the police. They're afraid that they have to live in that town, and the police
feel if they don't bring anything like this out into the open, it will go away.
Absolutely.
This is like putting a lot of dirty dishes in a closet. Pretty soon that closet door opens and the whole mess falls out, and you have what we have right here.
Absolutely. And it's been going on for 20 years plus.
Let me just put it this way, Larry. I'm not willing to make assumptions that people are guilty because people won't come on and talk. I'm sorry that we don't have representations from the Creve Coeur police because I think it's more important to try and get it out on the table.
I think that says a lot for the way people think about them, that they're not willing to come here and speak up for them.
The point
it doesn't necessarily say they're guilty, however.
And the officers asked them not to appear because they didn't want the show to go on.
They don't want to get caught for what they did.
They know that anyone would hurt their career.
They're
Calm
spending
down,
a lot of time trying to cover this up.
That's where they were wrong, though. Now it looks worse than ever. Because it's all out here looking dirty.
This is the only way we can get a story.
You continuously say that the money's not important to you, but I have a hard time believing you because you're asking for $50 or $70,000, million dollars, instead of just wanting to get these officers off the force for what they've done to your wife, if at all they did that.
You file a federal civil rights action. You file for big money because punitive damages is all you're going to get because you're not going to get justice in this country.
And when you say $70 million,
he knows his law, I'll tell you that. All right,
attention.
thank you very much. What?
When you say $70 million, that gets people's attention. It's like $70 million. Maybe we ought to read a little bit more about
that.
It
still didn't get a lawyer's attention. I go back to that.
It got the state police there. You better bet.
And they did an investigation which found that there wasn't...
He's represented by counsel now.
No, they decided. The county prosecutor decided there wasn't enough evidence. You know why? He said, he quoted to the newspapers, some serious questions remain about what these officers did.
Yeah, you were right. That is the quote.
My clothes, my
serious
boots.
questions remain about who was telling the truth in this matter.
Right.
Was also part of the report.
Telling the truth.
Including you. All right, another break. We'll be back. You're watching our guests talking about their own life experiences. If you have a personal story that you'd like to share with our show, please call 1-800-370-2712.
You have done nothing for the last 5 years but destroy my life.
Could a misunderstanding with your sibling turn into this?
I lost touch with my son because of her. I can't believe you said that.
Next, Sally. Today at 4 on KATU Channel 2.
Lots to get in. We've got a minute left. Go ahead.
I just want to say that Mr. Bailey is not here to defend himself, and I'm not saying the police department is in the right, but everybody is not guilty until proven guilty, and y'all are giving them a bum rap. There are a lot of good cops.
Ask Mr. Anderson here. If you got a question, why don't you ask Mr. Anderson how many thousands of dollars that the village and their insurance company has paid out on Officer Bailey, just Officer Bailey alone.
You want to know what happened? The insurance company settled one or two cases so they wouldn't go to trial.
Okay.
Curtis heard about it. Now he's on the bandwagon to make a mess.
Okay, I just want to tell Nicole and her husband, I'm not here to judge you, I'm not here to judge them, but I think everybody needs to be investigated.
I agree.
I
agree. Yeah, I agree.
Finally got the audience. Stand up over here. Quick. Stand up.
My question was, is if the damage happened to you, Nicole, why is he speaking for you? Why don't you speak more for yourself?
Speak up, baby.
Why don't I speak more for... He's my husband. He's my knight in shining armor.
Okay. We're out of time, folks. You can be sure that after what's been said on this set, we'll be watching this case and follow up very closely. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great day. For a transcript of our show, please send $5 along with the program name, subject, and air date to Burrell's Transcripts, Post Office Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. For a video cassette, call 1-800-4-VIDEO.